First, the tale of the tape. That's the focus of tonight's angle. The left-wing smear and the Never Trump smear squad is at it again. With this piece of video from Friday, a smattering of nasty Trump resistors set out to destroy the lives of a group of Kentucky high school students in D.C. for the March for Life. Well, they're from Covington Catholic High and are seen in the video purportedly confronting this Native American activist at the Lincoln Memorial. They were immediately denounced by left-wing loons, the media, and various know-nothing celebrities as basically just MAGA-hatted racists.
A mob of MAGA hat-wearing high school students, and clearly these boys are not getting a good education because it makes little sense to angrily chant "build the wall" to a population with literally zero illegal immigrants.
The net result is that video, and Americans again trying to figure out where race relations stand in this country.
We've come a long, long way from the days of police dogs and fire hoses and lynchings and those types of things. But those activities take different forms today. The KKK, the Nazis, they aren't running around in hoods and burning crosses. They're getting tiki torches and wearing azads and pullovers, right?
Even Catholics, like media darling Father James Martin, jumped on the condemnation train, tweeting, "Catholic school students at the March for Life attempt to shame and disrespect a man at the Indigenous Peoples March. These actions are not Catholic, not Christian, and not acceptable." Well, in record time, the school administrators in the Diocese of Covington also issued statements condemning the students' actions, and they reserved the right to expel them. But perhaps most disappointing of all was when the head of the March for Life, Gene Mancini, rushed in to virtue signal, tweeting, "The reprehensible behavior shown in the video in no way represents the 46 years and millions of people who have peacefully and respectfully gathered in Washington, D.C. to stand up for the unborn." Well, she and Father Martin and some others later backed off when they all realized that there was another side to the story. It turns out when you look at an hour's worth of video covering the entire incident, a few things emerge. The students had gathered to listen to a group that calls itself the Black Hebrew Israelites. I'd never heard of them before, but for anyone, I guess, who's traversed Times Square, the routine of these activists is pretty predictable. They use racially charged rhetoric in an attempt to provoke reactions, and then they capture it all on video. And this is what they were doing to the Covington high school students.
This child molesting priest right there. Right. Let's make America great again. A bunch of child molesting.
Look at all these dusty crackers with that racist garbage on. Look at these dirty crackers.
A bunch of future school shooters.
That's right.
A bunch of incest babies. That's right. A bunch of babies made out of incest. The biggest terrorist on the face of this earth is the pale-faced man, woman, and child.
Well, contrary to the early reporting on this story, it became clear that the students didn't confront anyone. All they did was stand their ground as they were being verbally assaulted. Now, why wasn't that the focus of the media story? Like, imagine if a couple of white pastors started yelling racial epithets at, say, black students on MLK Day. You think that would be a story? You bet it would be, and it should be. But let's face it, this is different because the Covington students had marched for the unborn. And the other sin they committed was daring to show up wearing red MAGA hats in D.C. So they were cast as a bunch of troublemakers. The Native American activist initially claimed he was surrounded by the kids, but other video shows it was he, Nathan Phillips, who initially approached the students, banging that drum in the face of Nick Sandman, the student. Well, Phillips, the activist, claims he did so to diffuse the tensions between the Black Hebrew Israelites and the students. Oh, does he look like he's diffusing tensions to you? The Covington students started singing school chants, but not Sandman, who, despite someone yelling and beating a drum in his face, did not say a word. The Covington High School junior, in a statement, wrote yesterday, I believe that by remaining motionless and calm, I was helping to diffuse the situation. I realized everyone had cameras and that perhaps a group of adults were trying to provoke a group of teenagers into a larger conflict. I'm being called every name in the book, including racist, and I'll not stand for this mob-like character assassination of my family's name. Well, the left isn't used to people standing their ground, are they? Not the way the Covington teen stood his. I think a lot of them get a perverse thrill when they drive their political targets out of restaurants, or when they show up at their homes, or in some cases, even physically attack them. Just for, what, the clothing? They're wearing clothing with messaging that the left-wing activists don't like? But these people, I'm not going to even stop calling them activists. They're not activists. And they're not simply professional rabble-rousers. They're more like, I don't know, they're more like domestic terrorists. And yeah, that's how I characterize them, because they're used to operating with total impunity because they usually get cover from a complicit media. And sometimes even from local officials who do nothing, as Trump supporters are literally taking a beating as they did during that June 2016 campaign event in San Jose for Trump. These Trotskyite trolls, incapable and uninterested in actually winning the war of ideas, are instead at war with the First Amendment and the free expression of others. And by the way, who caused this caustic environment? This is the environment we live in today, where leftist hacks engage in these guerrilla tactics. Trump? I mean, the president responsible for the booming economy, including the record low unemployment for young people and for minorities? Or how about the guy who defied all the skeptics to get criminal justice reform passed? Look, he ain't perfect. None of us are. But he did not empower the mob. But meet a few of the people who did.
When the president first assumed office with his racist and violent rhetoric.
Racism is still alive and well in the United States of America, and it's just we have a president that seems to help unleash it and give people a feeling that they can come out of the closet with that kind of racism.
We have a hater in the White House, the birther-in-chief, the Grand Wizard of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. One of the things that we've learned is that while Jim Crow may be dead, he's still got some nieces and nephews that are alive and well.
Now, this Covington Catholic High School episode also reveals something that reared its ugly head during the Kavanaugh battle. Blatant anti-Catholic bigotry and an animus even toward Catholic education. The left was clearly attempting to spin this nothing story into an indictment not only of Trump supporters, but of the pro-life cause and the faith that sustains it. If pressed, what they'd tell you their ultimate goal is to shut down Catholic and Christian education and eradicate all vestiges of those moral traditions underpinning them. Here's a smattering of the weekend hate. Check it out. Former chair of the DNC, Howard Dean, howled the following. Covington Catholic High School seems like a hate factory to me. Why not just close it? An LA-based DJ named Uncle Shoes tweeted, "Lock the kids in the school and burn that bee to the ground." Jack Morrissey, a producer who worked on Disney's live-action Beauty and the Beast, tweeted this beauty: "MAGA kids go screaming, hats first into the wood chipper." Eric Abris of Vulture tweeted, "I don't know what it says about me, but I've truly lost the ability to articulate the hysterical rage, nausea, and heartache this makes me feel. I just want these people to die. Simple as that. Every single one of them. And their parents." CNN's Bakari Sellers tweeted out of the Covington student saying this: "He is deplorable. Some people can also be punched in the face." My friends, you have to know the new rules. If someone is wearing a red MAGA hat, you're that person, well, you're a racist. And if you're a Catholic at a pro-life march in a red hat, you deserve whatever happens to you. The real thugs, they're not the students who stood and did nothing. They're the people who jeered the students in person and online. And the people who actually threatened them with actual violence. And by the way, Most of these tweets have not been deleted, and few accounts have even been suspended. That's only just a few of them. And what does that mean? It's going to happen again and again and again. Though, if you have the right political views, you can actually assault law enforcement on the steps of the D.C. Monuments, landmarks like the Supreme Court. You're good to go, no questions asked.
Mr. Hoffman, why is it you think we shouldn't be on the steps? Mr. Hoffman, why is it you think we shouldn't be on the steps? Are you concerned about your safety and the safety of your coworkers? Are you concerned about your safety and the safety of your coworkers? Do you have reason to believe that people there are carrying weapons? That there aren't? Do you believe that there is a safety concern for your fellow officers?
Verbal assaults that the police have to put up with every day? Well, it's the First Amendment. Now, why wasn't that a story, though? Lots of other stories like it. The Covington students deserve more than an apology. Lucky for them, there was that additional clarifying video that made so many of these malevolent morons eat crow. Still, though, these anti-male, anti-religious zealots have already done their damage. Lives have been threatened, just like lives on the Duke lacrosse team, the UVA fraternity brothers, or Brett Kavanaugh. They're all treated as disposable, kind of like collateral cultural damage. The question is, though, how will we as a society hold the real thugs accountable? And that's the angle.